Welcome to Bias Bash. I'm Lauren Green. Ted Cruz and John Boehner have been in a war of words since the former House Speaker called the GOP candidate, quote, Lucifer in the flesh, and said he had never worked with a more miserable SOB in his life. The media pounced on the comments, devoting breathless reporting to the public insult from a man usually known for keeping his opinions behind closed doors. So was it the tone of the remark or the man who said it that made this story irresistible to the media? Here to weigh in is Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and Fox News contributor Judy Miller. Welcome. So, Judy, so which is it? Is it kind of the message or the messenger behind this?
In this case, Lauren, it's both. It's a perfect combination of an absolutely loathsome message.
It was the gift they kept on giving, right?
That's right, by a loathed individual, the most unpopular man in the U.S. Senate,
wow.
One of the youngest, and also it's going to be hard to exceed his record. I mean, when you have even George W. Bush saying, I just don't kind of like the guy, or Bob Dole saying nobody likes him, Pete King, who gets along with a lot of people and on both sides of the aisle, says, I hate Ted Cruz. You know, it's hard to imagine what the media write about him, given the lack of a fan club among his colleagues.
Yeah, you know, but one of the things, though, that it wasn't exactly a public event. It really was more private. He was speaking to a crowd at Stanford University. Now, technically, I think it was public. It just wasn't like a broadcast for TV. But, you know, was it fair to kind of take his word at that kind of venue?
Yes, I think it was fair.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to give him something.
We are always taught at Fox News and at most radio and television stations, when you are wearing a microphone, you have to assume that it may be on. And I think that, you know, perhaps it was jet lag, or that he had had one too many drinks at the faculty lounge before the speech, because he said a great many things. He went on and on about Ted Cruz. But, you know, seriously, I think Ted Cruz is the reason that Donald Trump has enjoyed this enormous front-runner status that he has. I mean, Ted Cruz is the best gift Donald Trump was ever given, because his unpopularity has made it very hard for his senators and the Republican establishment to rally around him as the alternative to this outsider masquerading as a Republican.
I mean, doesn't this add, though, to also the narrative that the media likes about the GOP falling apart? And it may not be a made-up narrative. It could be very well, you know, well-founded. But the fact of the matter is that it came so much out of left field almost. I mean, it was like you couldn't have expected this kind of comment to come in from the GOP establishment.
Well, it's true, but it's understandable in that Boehner, who is usually a man who's quite reserved in some respects about his personal feelings about his colleagues, was clearly so angry at Ted Cruz, blames him personally for having tanked his speakership. You know, he couldn't get John Boehner, because of Ted Cruz and his little gang, could not get through even the legislation that Boehner wanted to get through for the good of the party, for the good of the country. And as a result, John Boehner takes that very personally. And almost every congressman or senator I speak to has a Ted Cruz story about having been told something by Ted Cruz that Ted Cruz subsequently denied, or having been promised that he would do something that he subsequently didn't do. And you can only do that so many times in the most collegial of place, which is the U.S. Senate,
right,
and not get a reputation such as his.
What do you think about Cruz's response? He says, I've had 50 words with the man, I don't know the man, I've never really worked with. What do you think of his response?
Well, that's ridiculous, because, I mean, they've had an association that goes on back many, many years, and they had many words when it came to the legislative initiatives that Speaker Boehner wanted to get through. I mean, this is the senator. It's just impossible to imagine this depth of animus absent some basis in fact. This is not a question of they don't like his looks. They think, you know,
well, that might be the next phase too.
That might be the next phase too. But this is a deep-seated animus that really does hurt the party, in that it has prevented a viable alternative to Donald Trump from emerging.
And you've got to imagine that if it leaked out in public in that kind of venue, how much more is there below the surface.
Oh, yes. And the media, by the way, have had a field day collecting why I hate Ted Cruz stories. And the only mystery to so many people who cover him is he has this lovely family and a really smart, capable wife. And what does she see him in? And you actually hear these things from reporters. You know, I don't understand. From senators, oh, yeah, we really like Mrs. Cruz. He ought to have Mrs. Cruz with him more often. I mean, that is damning by faint praise. I mean, it is an astonishing phenomenon in the U.S. Senate, which, as I said, really is a kind of a club.
It will be interesting to see how this plays out during the primary and into the convention.
It will.
Thanks so much, Judy.
Thank you.
And if you want to hear more media analysis on this week's top headlines, catch Media Buzz with Howard Kurtz, Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern and again at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News Channel. I'm Lauren Green, and thanks for watching.